This is RadioFire.com. Yours truly, Don McKay, in here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, we have a jam-packed show for you today. A lot of things on the plate. Before we get started, New York City's first black mayor, David Dinkins, passed away today, or last night, 93 years old. Few Americans have had to face the battery of ills that confronted David Dinkins when he became the first black mayor, first and only black mayor of New York City back in 1990. So he had to deal with, of course, AIDS, the crack epidemic, a soaring murder rate, rampant homelessness, racial discord. I mean, there were a lot of things going on at the time, and David Dinkins was a pioneer, and he is someone who is going to be sorely, sorely missed. It is, when you have so many politicians today, black politicians, does not seem like there was a time when you did not have the election of black people, but there was a time not that long ago. So David Dinkins also was in the Marines in Korea, ran for mayor in 1989, defeated Ed Koch when he went on to defeat Giuliani in a very, very narrow election. Giuliani eventually came back and defeated Dinkins. So Dinkins was in office 1990 to 93, and he vowed to be the mayor of all people in New York. And he declared that we are all foot soldiers on the march to freedom. So R.I.P. to the legendary David Dinkins. Sadly, his wife passed away a few weeks ago. And definitely do that. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. And we are back. You man, Don McKay in here, and it is something that we have to talk about. That is the murder rate in Baltimore. Tragically, sadly, we have reached the milestone that we have unfortunately come to for the last 6 years. For the last 6 years, we've had to deal with 300 or more murders in the city. What can be done? What can we do about this? This is everyone's burden to bear. Everyone. One political figure cannot do it. One police officer cannot do it. It's going to take everyone. I had a chance to sit down with the mayor-elect yesterday of Baltimore City, Brandon Scott, and we talked about crime, violent crime, among other things. But this is something that previous mayors have had to deal with. So what is it? What is the solution? There is no one solution to this problem. And it's a problem that other cities are facing as well. But I want to zoom in and I want to talk about Baltimore and how Baltimore is handling this. So yesterday, we reached this sad milestone. And the mayor spoke about this, and let's listen to Brandon Scott talking about the reaching of 300 murders in Baltimore.
Unfortunately, Baltimore has reached 300 homicides for the sixth year in a row. We cannot begin to accept this as normal. It's not normal. These people are not just numbers. They are people who will no longer be able to spend the holidays with their families. They are people who will not be able to reach their full potential in life. And we're talking about families and communities that will be left to deal with the trauma that comes as a result of their loss of life. We will no longer accept that any resident of our city should have to deal with acts of violence in their community. Baltimore can and will begin to address the violence in our city in a correct way. There's a clear role for police to play by having them focus on the small group of people who commit acts of violence continuously in our city and those who traffic weapons that are used for violence in Baltimore. This should happen simultaneously with rebuilding trust between our police and our community through our reform efforts. But in this moment, it is also critical that we understand that we must begin to treat violence like a public health issue. It is a disease. The police can no longer shoulder the sole responsibility for addressing this issue. We can, and we will in my administration, direct all agencies to be involved in the reimagining of public safety in Baltimore. Our health, housing, employment development, recreation, and parks, and all agencies will be tasked with helping to reimagine Baltimore's safety and make our neighborhoods safer. The road to a safer Baltimore will not be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But working together, I know it will happen. Baltimore deserves leadership that accepts the challenges that it brings and is dedicated to meeting them. In Baltimore, that's exactly what you're about to get.
All right, so that was the mayor-elect of Baltimore City talking about the murder rate in Baltimore City, passing the very, very harsh reality of 300 murders. Again, we're just before Thanksgiving, and this is a staggering reality for the sixth straight year. The sixth straight year. So what can be done? And as the mayor-elect said, this is not simply on the shoulders of the police. This is not simply on the shoulders of politicians. How many people are housing, protecting people that are doing these crimes? You know what's happening in your house. You may want to pretend like you don't know, but you know. You know. How many people, how many citizens are contributing to this epidemic of violence by not saying or doing anything? Many, definitely. But yet people still point the finger and think that it's the responsibility of other people. Everybody plays a part in cleaning this up. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. It did not get this way overnight, and it's not going to be fixed. But something has to be done. Something in the culture has to change. Something has to change. At what point? At what point? We have at least 300 families. We had 300 homicides. We had at least 300 families, not including friends, that are really going through it. That are really going through it. And as we going into this very non-traditional Thanksgiving season, I want you to think about those people. Think about the family members of these 300 victims. So what can we do? Brandon Scott said that Police Commissioner Harrison is going to stay on the job. He's not going to be replacing him. All right. So that's fine. Okay. What else? What else is going to happen with regards to policing? What else is going to happen with regards to crime? How can we improve the relationship between police officers, and the citizens? It's often talked about that we want cops that live in the communities that they police. This is often talked about, and it is something that I think should happen as well, right? But we still want to make sure that those people are A, qualified, and B, going to do the job. There's a lot of power in being a police officer. There's a lot of power in this position. So a lot of times people start off good and bad. We have to be able to hold police officers accountable. And it seems like something that's so simple, right? Holding police officers accountable for their actions. It seems like something very, very simple. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. In Baltimore, a police officer abused sick leave, went skydiving ahead of a scheduled surgery. He was supposed to be hurt. This Bama went skydiving. So this police officer abused medical and accident leave. They have not revealed the officer's name. The officer did join the force in 2007, and they have filed 10 separate workers' compensation claims to the tune of more than $300,000. Two were from two crashes in 2016 and 2017. Since 2008, Baltimore City has paid for 3 surgeries, physical therapy, medical appointments, and several months of leave. This is the type of corruption that I'm talking about, right? So what's going to happen to this officer? Is something going to happen to this officer? And I highlight this to point out that there is an accountability deficit in Baltimore City. Whether it is police, whether it is schools, there is a deficit in accountability in Baltimore City as it relates to these matters. So this police officer, because he claimed to have suffered knee, wrist, and back injuries from these crashes, he was assigned to light work activities. Nonetheless, in 2018, he went skydiving in South Carolina. He went on a similar trip to Florida just weeks before scheduled knee surgery. He signed a waiver with the skydiving company indicating that he had no back injury or orthopedic problems. So you know he lied on that waiver. And this makes me question, was this officer able to lie on police reports? Is this how much other lying is this officer doing in his life and as it relates to his job? Because if this was you or me, we would have all kind of problems. But they're doing this officer the solid of not revealing his name. I'm sure that it's going to come out. So the police union, they're gonna be real quiet about this one, right? They're gonna be real quiet. They don't have nothing to say about this. They don't come out for this kind of stuff. Their mics don't work. Their social media doesn't work when it comes to issues like this. The Baltimore Police Department's Public Integrity Bureau worked jointly with the City Inspector General on this investigation. And we're going to see what happens of this. And they say that they've made no conclusive finding about the officer's injuries, but they conclude that whatever injuries that they had could have been exacerbated by skydiving. And the officer, ironically, is still on medical leave. So if you were surprised about that, uh, this type of corruption, this type of activity, fraud, that's fraud. It has to be, normally officers lock people up for doing stuff like that, right? It is abuse, it is fraud, and it has to be. We have to move in a different direction with regards to these things. So, as far as the national landscape, President-elect Biden has talked about some signals and differencing of the way that business is going to be done. He has named his national security team, or started naming the national security team. He's declared that America is back. President-elect introduced some selections today, and some record-breaking selections, some historical selections. It is very, very. It's a move in the right direction. Biden has selected some veterans of Washington, some political heavyweights. Many of them have ties to the former Obama administration. President-elect is trying to deliver a clear message about his desire to reestablish more predictable engagement of America around the world. Under Donald Trump's leadership, America has really been unreliable to many of our allies. Many of our allies. So President-elect Joe Biden has put forth a team that reflects the fact that America is back. They're ready to lead the world like we used to do, right? Not retreat from it. But here's the other thing, and this is something I've been critical of. I like the fact that America likes to lead the world, right? Wonderful. I like the fact that we like to fight hunger and poverty and champion democracy in other places. However, we have to have the same level of intensity with our fights in America. We need the same level of intensity about poverty in America. The same. And it is not like that. Not currently. I hope that is something that the president-elect is going to look at. I hope that is something. So the ascertainment that the incoming president has been given, his team is going to have access to the officials at federal agencies, and it directs, directors from the Justice Department. It's going down. The president-elect is getting in order. And Donald Trump, he doesn't want to accept what's happening. Trump continues to press legal challenges, silly challenges. You know what I mean? Just stuff that just doesn't make sense. Trying to overturn the election that is over. It is so over. He refuses to concede. But his concession is not needed. It doesn't matter if he concedes. Things are going to move on regardless. He tweeted earlier today that the GSA does not determine who the next president of the United States will be. And that is true. The American people have already done that. The American people have already done that. 80 million people voted for Joe Biden. They wanted something other than what Trump was selling. And that's all he's doing is selling. He's just trying to sell stuff. But he's not going to concede, and that's fine. But what's so ironic is that he made a big deal about Hillary Clinton conceding to him, and he's lost by more than what he beat her by, and he refuses to concede. And that's fine. That's fine. On the other side of the White House, January the 22nd, 21st, I wonder what kind of song Donald Trump's going to be singing at that point. He's going to be looking for deals. He's going to be looking for all kind of stuff, hoping that the Biden administration and New York City, New York State doesn't come down on him. Will we ever see Donald Trump's tax returns? Probably not. I just want some accountability. I just want Donald Trump to be held accountable for all of his misdeeds. Now, is that going to happen? Let me know. Let me know about that. If that's going to happen, that's something that many people are looking forward to. Many people are looking forward to. So just tune in. It's the Don McKay Show here on Radio on Fire. Of course, I'm here weekdays, 7 p.m. live, radioonfire.com. You can also check us out on demand wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you get your videos. Just search the Don McKay Show. So, unfortunately, COVID-19 is continuing to surge throughout this country. Continuing. We really need people to stop being crybabies about a little inconvenience with regards to the mask, little inconvenience with regards to a virtual celebration of, Thanksgiving, trying to contain this virus, right? I want people to stop being a crybaby about this. We've been dealing with this. You have the families of 250,000 Americans and more that have lost loved ones. Americans need to stop being crybabies about this. We already have more than 250,000 reasons to weep and be thankful that we are still alive and we can do something about it. Wearing a mask, maintaining some social distance. Vaccines are coming online, but that's not the cure. That's not the single solution. We still are going to need to be vigilant. The vaccine is not going to end this crisis right away. You're going to have to keep your mask. You're going to have to. It's not time yet. Don't even think about putting these masks away anytime soon. So despite the expected arrival of the COVID-19 vaccines in just a few weeks, it could take several months, probably up until well into 2021, before things get somewhat back to normal, something close to what we remember life being. Still going to be some time before people go to movies, go live to an NBA game, or, visit your grandparents at a nursing home, wherever they may be. The first limited shipments of this vaccine would mark just the beginning of what could be a very long and very messy road toward the end of this pandemic. This pandemic has upended life and killed more than 250,000 people in this country. More than 250,000 people. In the meantime, I know that many people say that they have COVID fatigue, tired of the virus, but you cannot let your guard down. You cannot, especially going into this flu season, going into the wintertime. The cold weather is getting ready to really hit. It ain't even really hit like that yet, but it's getting ready to. If you are fighting a battle, right, and the cavalry is on their way, but they haven't gotten there yet, you don't stop shooting because the cavalry is coming. You got to keep going, at least until the cavalry gets there. And then even after cavalry gets there, you may still have to keep fighting, right? You have to. And that's where we're at. Vaccines are coming, but we still got to keep going. Dr. Anthony Fauci has been giving good advice with regards to this. He's an expert in infectious diseases. Many on the right are going to say, oh, he was wrong about this or he was wrong about that. We're just learning about this virus. We're still learning about it. So, yes, there have been changes made and different things here and there. But along the way, experts are talking about some of the logistical challenges with regards to this huge vaccination campaign that is taking place or they're preparing for. So vaccines are going to hit. It's going to hit those health workers, folks in nursing homes, the elderly. Then it's going to start to really trickle down to regular everyday folks. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and we still have to be mindful of side effects. I mean, there's so many things that we have to take into account here. Vaccines are also not always effective for everybody. For example, seasonal flu vaccines have been effective in about 20 to 60% of people who get them. Vaccines don't work for everybody. That's why I'm saying that you're going to still have to continue to wear your mask. It's still up in the air. People take the flu shot, but people still get the flu, right? It happens. So the definition of effective with regards to the vaccine can vary. Rather than prevent the infection entirely, the first COVID-19 vaccines might only prevent illness, right? Vaccinated people might still be able to transmit the virus. Another reason why you still have to wear your mask. Do you see a point? Do you see a theme developing here? Still wear your mask. Another thing, the vaccines can take a while to work. Takes time. The first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine might bring about a degree of protection within a couple of weeks. It's not like in a movie where they get a shot in their arm and then they're not a zombie anymore instantly. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. So people who do not understand that lag could mistakenly think that the vaccine made them sick if they were happening to come down with COVID-19 soon after the shot. A lot of times people make that mistake with the flu and say that they got the flu shot and it gave them the flu, right? Might also people start to blame some unrelated health problems and amplify those fears online. That could happen because we're talking about a vaccine that is brand new. There has not been a lot of time there. This is a vaccine for a virus that just hit this country 10 months ago, and they already have a vaccine for it. Normally, it would take years for the reason of still studying the effects of it. So some people, they don't have time for that, and they're just trying to rush and get this out. So we're going to be learning like we've been doing, learning on the go. That's good and that's bad. Could be a disaster, could be a blessing, could be somewhere in between. So America is back, according to the president-elect. And I feel that it's going to really sink in that America's back once we get this clown out of the White House. Once we get Donald Trump out of the White House, it is going to be a good day. Republicans are going to be sad, and that's all right. Democrats probably been sad for the last 4 years. So Republicans, it's so ironic. Mitch McConnell famously said that he was going to make sure that Barack Obama was a one-term president. But it looked, the only one-term president that we're talking about is Donald Trump. And that is good for not only America, but it is good for the world. Donald Trump came out and did a press conference today. Oh, it was so hilarious. So the Dow, all he wants to talk about, of course, is the stock market, Dow Jones. The Dow Jones, 30,000 points. It wasn't because of anything that Donald Trump did, per se. It's this high point because he's on his way out, but he's celebrating that. Look, everyone, the stock market, the markets are glad that you're leaving. He's claiming victory over the advances in the stock market. So he does his press conference. He literally comes out for like a minute. And they're also happy about this Joe Biden transition. That's what the markets are responding to. So they closed above 30,000 points for the first time Tuesday. As progress in the development of the vaccines and news of the transition of power has hit. That's what is energizing the market. But this idiot, Donald Trump, comes out, claims victory for this, and then walks away. Right? Who does? What did you even come out for? Right? He didn't take any questions. He didn't do anything because the questions are when you're going to concede. Admit that you lost. You know what I mean? You're a loser. Admit it. He doesn't want to hear any of that. And he probably will not do what adults do and accept the results. He's not going to do that. And that's fine. Nobody's expecting him to because that's just who he is. A sore loser, a man child, a big baby. And that's just who he is. Oxycontin maker Purdue Pharma has pleaded guilty in a criminal case. What does this mean? So Purdue Pharma pleaded guilty today. 3 criminal charges. They are formally taking responsibility for their large part in the opioid epidemic. Hundreds of thousands of deaths as a result of the opioid epidemic. But it also angers people, critics, that want to see somebody held accountable. In addition to the company, somebody needs to go to jail. Somebody needs to go to jail from this company. So they had a virtual hearing with the feds, New York, and the Oxycontin maker admitted to the impending preventing the DEA in their efforts to fight this crisis. They admitted it. This was you or me. You know what the result would be. But Purdue Pharma has acknowledged that it had not maintained an effective program to prevent prescription drugs from being diverted to the black market. Even though it told the DEA that it did have such a program, they lied. Amongst other things, they lied. And these criminals also provided misleading information to the DEA as a way to boost the company's profits. They did this to make more money. As this opioid epidemic has hit this country in a way that just on an unbelievable way. In court, these criminals admitted to paying doctors through speakers programs to induce them to write more prescriptions for the painkillers. This was a big conspiracy. They knew this was going to happen. They also admitted paying an electronic medical records company to send doctors information on patients and then encouraged them to prescribe opioids. This was a whole thing. This was worse than what big tobacco was doing, I think, because many people trust their doctors over anybody, right? And if the doctor's saying, hey, you need this, the person's thinking that they can trust the doctor. But many of these doctors were on the payroll of Purdue Pharma, and they had this whole ring going on where they're funneling them money through speaker series. You come out and talk, and they're sending them money. Talk positively about our drugs. Then other people prescribe these drugs to your patients, and they all getting money. This is the worst kind of drug ring because they did it under the guise of being legal. This wasn't the person standing on the corner. This was supposed to be a doctor that you trusted. And these guilty pleas were entered, as I said, by Purdue Pharma's board chairperson, Steve Miller, on behalf of the company. They were part of a criminal and civil settlement that was announced last month between Stamford, Connecticut, and the Justice Department. But who's going to pay for this? Who's going to jail? Who's going to jail? The deal includes an $8.3 billion in forfeitures, penalties, but the company is on the hook for a direct payment to the federal government of only a fraction of that, $225 million. It would pay a smaller amount as long as it executes a settlement moving through the federal bankruptcy court with the state and local governments and other entities suing it over the toll of this opioid epidemic. I don't think that that's enough. Rich folks in this country have been able to manipulate the system, and this is an example of that. Members of this family that own Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, they own this company, have also agreed to pay $225 million to settle some civil claims. That ain't that much money when you're considering what we're talking about. Keep in mind this. No criminal charges have been filed. Zero. No criminal charges. But people that were selling this stuff on the streets, the government lined up criminal charges and sent people to jail. But the source of it, no criminal charges. No family members, although the deal leaves open the possibility of that in the future. But you and I know the probability of criminal charges being filed is low. Is low. Having our plea accepted in federal court and taking responsibility for past misconduct is an essential step to preserve billions of dollars of value. That's what this is about. Preserving money. The company is still trying to pull a scam on the American people. They are still trying to pull a scam. So Purdue Pharma's plea to federal crimes provides very little comfort to advocates who want to see some real penalties, some real harsh penalties for this Oxycontin maker and its owners. Let's keep in mind this: the drug crisis is not over. People are still addicted to these drugs. And because of this pandemic of COVID-19, many addictions have worsened. Purdue Pharma has contributed to the deaths of more than 470,000 Americans over the past 20 years. Right? Most of these deaths are from opioids, over the counter and black market drugs. But no one is paying a real penalty for this but the American people, the families of these people that have become addicted, and then the actions that they made, during that time. This has just been a disaster. And I want to see harsher penalties. And I'm sure that many of you do as well. So we're definitely going to keep following that story and that case. I don't see this ending the way that it needs to end. Harsher penalties is what needs to happen. Harsher penalties. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. Come back with more of the show after this. And we're back. You man, Diamond K in here at RadioFire.com, TheDiamondKShow.com. So we're talking about the big baby, Donald Trump. He is still not accepting and insisting that he is not giving up on his fight to overturn the election. Grown man. We talked about the fact that he has not formally conceded and may never. He just wants to sow doubt about the vote. Maybe run in 2024 if he can stay out of jail or serious trouble. Maybe he'll run again. I think that what we are witnessing is the separation, the breaking in half, the implosion of the Republican Party. Any smart Republican needs to distance themselves from Donald Trump. Are you going to let them destroy your party? I mean, that's what's happening. That is what is happening right now. Unfortunate for Republicans. If you're going to let Donald Trump come in, who's not even a real Republican, destroy your party, that's on y'all, right? I could care less whether the Republican Party implodes or not. What is very high on my list of priorities with regards to politics is this Senate runoff in Georgia. Double trouble. Democrats need to win this. Republicans are trying every dirty trick in the book to try to keep this thing in their favor. And it's in their favor because most runoffs tend to benefit the Republicans, who just happen to be imploding right before our eyes. So how is this going to go? How are things going to end up? I don't know. But Georgians need to get out and vote. Now, I know you voted, in the general election. You helped get Joe Biden a win. not only in the state of Georgia, but you did your part and helped them get a win in the country, right? But you have one more job to do. You have one more job to do. And that is to get out and vote in this Senate race. It is very important. It is very important. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking to some of the candidates that are running in the Georgia Senate race. And we just need to just really highlight how important this race is. This is going to determine who controls the Senate. It's just that simple. This is going to control, if they get Democratic control, right? If it's 50-50 seats in the Senate, Kamala Harris is going to be the tiebreaker in a lot of those votes. Joe Biden's going to be able to push forward his agenda more. And if that is something that is important to you, which it should be, Georgians are the kingmakers in this regard. Georgians are the kingmakers. And so we definitely need people to get out and vote. So that is going down. And we're going to be talking, as I said, to people that are running in this race. We're going to be talking to Georgians. We're going to be talking about this more than we normally would. But this is super important, and I want to make sure that everybody, if you have a relative that's in Georgia, you need to make sure that they're registered. They are trying a lot of funny business. They're trying a lot of shady things, which is not surprising for Republicans. This is not, oh my God, they're trying what? Like, this is what they do. This is what they do. And you have to be able to recognize this when it happens. So, you're watching the Diamond K Show, of course, radioonfire.com, thediamondkshow.com. I will be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. for the program. And as always, radioonfire.com for past episodes. Hit the subscribe button wherever you are watching this. And I will see you guys tomorrow.